I'm Steve Ross, and I'm going to show you how to get started playing rock guitar. You should already be familiar with basic techniques as well as simple chords. If you're not, I'd like you to watch my first video called Play the Guitar Overnight. Once you get comfortable with that, then watch this video. The method we're going to learn utilizes hot tips and shortcuts that I've used over the years. I know you're ready, so let's get started. To begin with, you're going to need an electric guitar. Now, the electric guitar has all the same parts as an acoustic guitar, except that it uses pickups to reproduce the sound through an amplifier. Now, the pickup is basically a magnet wound with copper coils. When the string vibrates, the pickup captures the signals, then sends it through the cord to the amplifier. The volume is controlled by this knob here. This switch allows you to choose which pickup and in what combination, depending on the sound you want. The guitar that I'm playing is a Kramer Pro Axe. I really like it because it has a great vibrato or whammy bar and lots of sustain. There are a lot of different guitars on the market today, so let's take a look at a few of them. Electric guitars come in all sizes, shapes, and colors. The price you pay depends on the style and features you want. When you go to buy a guitar, there's a couple of things to look for. Now, this red guitar here is a classic Fender Stratocaster. It has 3 pickups, a 5-position switch. It's used by a lot of rock and blues players. This guitar here is called a Flying V, obviously has something to do with the shape, and the neck is nice and thin, has good action, it's great to play. This Kramer has 2 pickups, good action, a good whammy bar, and it's got a sustain button for infinite sustain. We'll just see how this plays. The first thing you should do when you go to buy an instrument is play it. Check to see that all the notes are clean all the way up the neck. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do that, but the way I recommend is just count up 1, 2, 3, 4 on all the strings and go way up like this. And then again, start up here and go all the way up. Just make sure there's no buzzing or rattling on any of the frets. Second, you'll want to take a look at the action. Now, the action is the height of the strings from the fingerboard. If the action's too high, it'll be a lot harder to play. Also, you want to look down the neck and make sure it's straight and not warped in any way. Third, you'll need to check the intonation. The guitar should be in tune all the way up the neck. Now, to check this, you play a harmonic on the 12th fret. Pluck the open string with your finger lightly on the string over the 12th fret like this. Now, press the note on the same fret. The notes should be the same. If they're not, you can adjust the bridge either up or down until they are. The last thing you want to check is the knobs and switches to make sure they're in good working order. Next thing you'll need is an amplifier. Again, depending on your needs and budget, there are a lot to choose from. This is a combo amp. It's real compact, has a nice clean sound, and it's very versatile. It's great for playing clubs or recording dates. This next amp is used by a lot of rock and heavy metal players. It only has 2 settings, loud and louder. It's sometimes referred to as a stack because the amp is stacked separate from the speakers. Now, this little amp here is something that I like to use. It's small, compact, great for practicing at home or anywhere you don't want to drag a lot of equipment around. Now, before we get into the lesson, I'd like to show you a few effects. Years ago, about the only thing a rock guitarist could do to change the sound of his guitar was turn it up or down. But since the discovery of the computer chip, there's a lot of outboard equipment on the market that can enhance your sound. Now, this is a guitar effects unit. It has an array of built-in effects that I can control from this foot pedal. Now, I want to show you a few of them. For example, and another one would be this. Now, all this equipment is really great, but when you first start out, the only things you really need are a good guitar and an amp. Before we begin, let's tune up. Why don't you tune up to me? I'm going to play my A string. Now, to play the rock guitar, you need to play chords you already know, but a little bit differently. So to begin with, you probably play the E chord like this. That's fine, but I want you to change your fingering and play it like this. Now let's play the A chord. You normally play it like this, but I want you to try it this way. Now that you've got that, I want to teach you some bar chords. Bar chords are where the index finger takes place of the nut, allowing you to move the chord up the fingerboard. These chords are used a lot in rock guitars, so it's important that you know it. Use the index finger with your elbow tucked close to your side. Try to keep the index finger as straight as possible. The idea is to get a nice clean sound like this. Now let's put it together and make a G bar chord. Play the E chord with the new fingering I just showed you and slide it up the neck. 1, 2, 3. Now lay the index finger across the 3rd fret, making sure your thumb is pressing the back of the neck, like that. Play it one string at a time till you get a nice, clean sound. We call the chords using the E shape first position bar chords. The great thing about first position bar chords is that you can slide them to almost any fret without changing the fingering. For example, to play an A bar chord, slide the barred chord up 2 frets so that your index finger is on the 5th fret. This is an A. Notice that the E string tells you what chord you're playing. If I press the 1st string on the 1st fret, this is an F note. Now if I play with my index finger across the 1st fret, it's an F chord. Likewise, if I place my index finger across the 3rd fret and play this chord, it's a G chord. And if I place my index finger across the 5th fret, it's an A chord, and so on. Now we're going to learn the second basic bar position. Starting with the new fingering of the A chord, let's slide it up 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. And lay the index finger across the 3rd fret and play all the strings but the high E string like this. Now slide this up 2 frets and you have a D chord. Remember, don't play the 1st string. These 2 bar chord shapes are very versatile. They allow you to play rock progressions very simply. Instead of sliding the first position bar all over the place like this, you can play the same progression like this. So it's much easier, as you can see. Now let's work with the right hand. You should already know how to damp or mute the strings, but let me go over it in case you missed it. You rest your hand on the strings next to the bridge, and using short downstrokes only, hit only 3 or 4 strings at a time. Let's try it with the G chord. Now using this technique, let's learn our first rock progression. For this progression, we need to play the G chord in the first position, the C chord, and the D chord in the second position. Using only downstrokes, I want you to play the G chord for 8 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then the C chord for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the D chord for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then repeat the whole thing. Let's try it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you put it all together and you speed it up, it might sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like other progressions, you can play this in any sequence you want. The next chords we're going to learn are called first position minor bar chords. You play the G bar chord in the first basic position. Now lift your second finger off the strings. Now you have a G minor. A G bar chord, a G minor bar chord. This works for all the first basic bar chords up the neck. For instance, when you play the B chord like this, by just lifting your second finger, you can also play the B minor chord. So it's the B chord and the B minor chord. Next, we'll learn the second basic minor chord position. This chord is based on an open A minor fingering, and it looks like this. The second finger goes on the first fret of the second string. The third finger goes on the second fret of the fourth string, and the fourth finger goes on the second fret of the third string. It's an open A minor chord. Now slide that shape up the neck 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. and bar the chord using the index finger on the 3rd fret. We now have a C minor bar chord. Like the minor chords in the 1st position, this shape works for all the bar chords in the 2nd position. For instance, the D bar 2nd position, the D minor bar, the E bar 2nd position, the E minor bar, and so on. I'm going to play a progression using one of the minor bar chords you just learned. Now, using only downstrokes and damping, play the 2nd position C bar chord for 8 counts. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then the D bar chord for 7 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then switch to the 2nd position E minor for 4 counts. When you change to the E minor, play 1 count with the bar only. Then add the shape. 1 count off, 1 count on. Then damp the low E string for 4 counts. Then repeat the E minor. So the whole thing sounds like this. And again. I know this sounds like a lot, but once you get it, it'll really sound cool. So try and practice it until you can play it up to speed. 1, 2, 3, Before we get into soloing, let's learn another progression and rhythm pattern that's used quite a bit in rock and blues guitar. Starting with an A chord, lift off the little finger and play the chord, hitting only the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, like this. Now add the little finger on the 9th fret of the 5th string, like this. I want you to play this with the little finger off for 2 counts. 1, 2, then on for 2 counts. 3, 4. Repeat this 4 times, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Now let's play the D bar chord, 2nd position. Add the little finger to the 9th fret of the 4th string. 2 counts off, 2, 2 counts on, 3, 4. Hitting only the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings, repeat 2 times like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Now back to the A chord and repeat it twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. then to the E bar chord's second position. Add the little finger to the 11th fret of the 4th string. Repeat this 2 times like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Then back to the D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Finally back to the A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Now to end it, you go to the D and slide up to the E like this. Let me show you a little slower. When we put it all together, it sounds like this, hopefully. 1, 2, 3, and. Experiment with this progression by adding different right-hand rhythms. Up to now, you've only been playing chords, and rhythm is important, but where would rock be without lead guitar? So to play lead guitar, you first have to be able to play single notes. So I'm going to show you a little exercise that I want you to practice. The tablature will show you what string, fret, and finger to use when playing this exercise. And we'll use the tablature again later on when we begin to play scales and solos. Watch the screen for the finger position. Now you take your little finger, 4th finger, start on the 6th fret. Make sure each note is hit clean. Then the index finger, the 1st finger, on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. Again, 4th finger on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string. 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. And the 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. And then back up, 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. So first try it going down like that, nice and slow. And later, you can try it going up. The more you do it, the easier it'll get. During the practice break, I'll leave the diagram on the screen for you to use. Most rock lead guitar is based on a basic blues scale. We use the basic blues scale as a foundation for soloing over chords. Now the first fingering is in the key of G and begins with the little finger on the 6th fret of the first string. You'll notice that the last note of the scale ends on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, which is G. You play the scale over a G bar chord. In whatever position you play a first basic bar chord, the scale will always be in the same position as the chord. Now this works for any first or second position bar chord, major or minor. To demonstrate, I'll use the same rock rhythm we just learned in the key of B. I'm going to play the notes from the basic blues scale over this rhythm. The track contains both major and minor chords. Listen to how the notes work. For soloing, it's important that you practice this scale. Now that you know the basic blues scale, you're ready for soloing. In order to make the notes that you know already sound more interesting, you need to add a few embellishments. First, vibrato. Vibrato is Italian for vibrate, which means that you make the strings sing, sustaining a note or notes. Vibrato adds color to the tone, and this is usually done with the first or sometimes 3rd finger, it depends. Press the string, moving it side to side while rotating the wrist and forearm. Now you can alter the speed of the vibrato from slow to fast, depending on what you want. The vibrato should always be comfortable and sound even. Use this technique on a few of the notes in the basic blues scale, like this. The next technique you can use to expand your solos is string bending. Now when you bend a string, you raise the pitch of the note a half tone, a whole tone, or more. How far you bend the string depends on the gauge of the string and the strength of your fingers. Bending is usually done with the 3rd finger, again like this. You can bend the string slowly, or quickly, for different sounds. You can also bend the note up and mute it like this. Let's try a few bends in our scale to see how they add to the solo. Add vibrato at the top of the bend to make your solos more dynamic. You might even slide into the notes like this. Hammering adds another bit of color to your soloing. When you hammer a note, you begin by playing a note, then pressing a higher note 2 to 3 frets up the neck with your 3rd or 4th finger. That finger hammers the note like this. You actually play the note without picking the note. When using both the 3rd and 4th fingers to hammer, the same thing applies. The other technique I'd like to show you is called pulling off. Pulling off means exactly that. When you play the note with the 3rd or 4th finger, pull that finger off the note, leaving the 1st finger on the string like this. Let's combine these two techniques. To do this, we'll play a note with the first finger on the 5th fret of the first string. Then hammer the string with the little finger on the 8th fret. Pull off the little finger, leaving the first finger on the 5th fret. Now practice this on all the strings. This technique is used in a lot of high-speed solos. It's not that difficult, but it sounds hot. The solo I just played uses another technique called the double stop. To do this, we play two adjacent strings at the same time. Now try using downstrokes when playing this. A lot of legendary guitarists like Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, and Keith Richards all use this little trick in their playing. Now the neat thing about double stops is that you can use them in the same position as the basic blues scale. In the key of A, play the first two strings with the 4th finger on the 8th fret. Then using the first finger, move down to the 5th fret, same strings. Switch to the 2nd and 3rd strings on the 7th fret with the 3rd finger, down 2 frets, same strings with the 1st finger. Continue this pattern, switching strings until you reach the 5th fret on the 4th and 5th strings. The whole pattern is played like this. Every great rock guitarist had to start with the basics. I want you to practice the things you've learned and be creative, add little touches of your own. Keep playing and stay with it. Until next time, don't be sharp, don't be flat, be natural.